So inequalities are very similar to equations, but instead of involving an equal sign, we make use of a less than or greater than symbol. Let's go over a few of the basics. So here we have x equaling 1, so this just means x equals 1. X is less than 1. So the way I like to think about which way it should face as far as the inequality sign is concerned is that the larger end opens up to the larger number. So think of a crocodile. You know, a crocodile's greedy. It will go for the largest piece of meat it can have. So the crocodile opens its mouth up towards the 1 because the 1 is greater than the x. But the way that we read that is from left to right, so x is less than 1. X is greater than 1. X is less than or equal to 1. X is greater than or equal to 1. When we're solving inequalities, we deal with it in the same way as we solve equations. So we apply the opposite inverse operations. So just the undoing steps. So addition and subtraction are opposite to each other, multiplication and division are opposite to each other. The only difference is that if we end up multiplying or dividing by a negative number, then we need to change the direction of the inequality. Let's look at an example here. So in my first job here, I want to take 12x from both sides. So I do that. And I have a tidy up line. So the left-hand side is greater than or equal to 35. I now want to add 10 to both sides. And here's my tidy up line. So negative 15x is greater than or equal to 45. And now what I want to do is divide both sides by negative 15, so that will leave me with just the x. But because I'm dividing by a negative number, I need to change the direction of the inequality. So instead of the left-hand side being greater than or equal to the right-hand side, the left-hand side is in fact less than or equal to the right-hand side. I end up with x being less than or equal to negative 3. CAS approach, exactly the same, except for instead of putting in an equal sign, we put in an inequality. That's shown here. Looking at some notation and the number line. So if the inequality is x being less than 4, then on a number line, I can write it like this. I'm starting at 4, and I'm going towards negative infinity. And that goes on, and negative infinity is something that we can never obtain. So I draw that and show it as an arrow. And because it's less than 4, and I'm not including the 4, on the number line, I represent that as being a hollow circle. So that's not filled in. Interval notation would look like this. So we're starting from negative infinity. So I've got negative infinity. And because I'm not including the negative infinity, because infinity is something that we can never obtain, so we can never say that we got there, it's a circular bracket. And I'm going up to 4, but I'm not including the 4, so that's also a circular bracket. So if we're not including the endpoints, they're circular brackets. And remember, you can never obtain infinity, so that should never be included. That second representation you'll never see, so just don't worry about that. X being greater than or equal to negative 2, so I'm starting at negative 2, and I'm going towards positive infinity. Of course, I'll never reach it. I show that as being an arrow, and because I'm including the negative 2, it's a solid circle. The interval notation, I'm starting from negative 2 going to infinity. Infinity is something I'll never obtain, so therefore circular bracket. The negative 2 we're including, so if you're including that endpoint, it's always going to be a square bracket. In this example, we've got everything except for 1. So let's look at that. We start from negative infinity, we're going all the way through to infinity. So we've got arrowheads, but we're not including the point 1. So I show that as being a hollow circle. So the number line's pretty clear. But what does this notation mean? The big capital U just means union. So we've got this or this. Notice that we're excluding the 1. Let's look at the left-hand side. I'm starting from negative infinity, and that's something I could never obtain, so that's why we have a circular bracket. And I'm going up to 1, but I'm not including the 1. So I can go up to 0.9999999, but I won't exactly have the 1. So that's shown here, starting at negative infinity, going up to the 1, but not including the 1. Right-hand side, I'm starting at the 1, but I can't actually have the 1. So 1 exactly is not included. So 1.000000001 is included, but not 1 itself. So I'm starting at 1, not including the 1. I'm going up to infinity, and of course I can't obtain infinity. So circular brackets. So I'm going from there to here. And it's in union with. So I've got that, or I've got that. Let's look at this with some problems. So in the first example, there's my inequality, and I just solve the inequation as I usually would for any other type of equation. And because I'm not dividing or multiplying by a negative number, there's no need to change the direction of the inequality. What am I looking for? X is greater than or equal to 4, so I have a number line. I start at 4. I'm including the 4, so the point is solid, and I'm got all values greater than it. So I've got an arrowhead showing that I'm moving towards positive infinity. B, the same story here, except if I end up dividing by -3. So therefore, I need to change the direction of the inequality. So I'm looking at values for where m is greater than 4. So I have myself a number line. I'm looking at the 4. Of course, I've got no little line here, so that means I'm not including the 4. So it's just a hollow circle, all values greater than it, shown there. C, I multiply both sides by 4 and multiply both sides by 2. Collect like terms. And then finally, I've divided both sides by 2, so I've got x being less than or equal to -11. So a number line again, looking at -11, we're including it, so it's solid. And I've got an arrowhead going to the left-hand side towards negative infinity. That's shown there. D, similar kind of idea, except for I end up dividing both sides by -10. So I change the direction of the inequality. So I'm looking at x being less than -1/10, which we know is -0.1. So number line again, I estimate that -0.1 is here. So I've got a hollow circle, all values less than it, shown there.